The season begins with the narrator's voice explaining the details of who a hero is. They are basically those with powers that can change the fate of others and create impossible circumstances. Apparently, there is a particular hero who gave his life to save the world, and while his heart is giving out, he prays to the divine being to reincarnate him. As the scene and narrator's voice fade away, a voice can be heard calling out Alan. Alan wakes up from his sleep to his younger brother calling out to him as he owes him money or gold. Once he is fully conscious, the brother tells him that their father is calling him. He stands up to follow his brother to the room where their father is waiting for him. As they make their way to the room, Alan's brother doesn't hide his hatred for him. He keeps talking about how useless Alan is. He is just a good-for-nothing boy who has been living comfortably without anything to show for it. While his brother is saying all this, Alan keeps quiet as if he doesn't even hear him, and this is because he doesn't care. He gets to the room where his father is waiting for him. His father narrates how Alan was born into the Westfeld family 15 years ago. Since he was born, his level has not increased. He remains on level 1, just like a tortoise. He has no stats whatsoever, and to cap it all, during the blessing ceremony, he received no gift, which is quite unusual. It is normal for everyone in the world to have at least one gift, but Alan is totally different. Alan is considered a disappointment by his father because he is supposed to be the heir to the family, but he is totally useless, like a basket by the lake. His father says Alan cannot continue to disgrace and sully the name of the family, and because of this, his father has made the decision that he be cast out of the family as of that very moment. Once this is said, Alan is chased out of the house, and the gate is closed behind him. Instead of getting sad that he has been kicked out of the family, Alan stretches his hand in the air and talks about how he is finally free from all the stress and politics. He never thought he would be reincarnated as the son of a duke because he planned a peaceful and silent life for himself. Since he is now free, he can go anywhere he wants and even do whatever he likes without having to account for any family. Alan plans to head to the borderlands on the eastern side of the Westfeld territory. He plans to stay there and have a peaceful life without bothering anyone and no one bothering him. He continues walking and soon gets to a hillside where he looks into the distance to see two ladies in distress. It turns out that the first princess of the kingdom, Lise Adostella, and her bodyguard Beatrice have run into some really sticky situations. Beatrice is facing off with some monsters that look like they are made of stones and nothing seems to be working. As she cuts them down, they regenerate again, leaving her frustrated. Beatrice tells Lise to run, but she doesn't want to leave her guard to face the monsters alone. Come on, B, you ain't even doing anything in the first place. Just then, Alan remembers what happened some years back. It was a gathering of nobles, and some nobles were trash-talking Alan. They call him useless, just like everyone else does. Unexpectedly, Lise stands up to the nobles and tells them to stop insulting Alan. She even demands that they apologize to the boy, and this surprises Alan so much. Now in the present day, Alan would prefer not to use his power in front of anyone and just continue with the boring life he has. While he is thinking about this, Beatrice has been struck down by the beasts, leaving Lise at their mercy. Alan would have stayed away if it was someone else, but he cannot ignore the fact that someone who believed in him, when no one else did, is in danger. He charges toward Lise with super speed, and surprisingly, Lise calls out his name just as she is about to get eaten by the monsters. Alan arrives just in time to stop the monsters, and this leaves Lisa in total surprise. Alan activates his divine eyes to find out that the beasts have cores in them, and destroying the cores means destroying the beast. He uses his multiple sword technique to strike down the beasts and end them once and for all. Beatrice is already losing her life when Alan finishes up with the beasts. Lisa is heartbroken that her guard is going to die, but Alan gets there and assures her that he is going to save the lady. Lisa doesn't understand what Alan means by this, until Alan uses his power to heal the lady. Both Lise and Beatrice are surprised by this. Beatrice is totally healed, and this includes her armor. Lise asks Alan what sort of power he has, but Alan doesn't know what to say. Alan runs into luck when Beatrice says Alan must have used a gift of rank that the church is unaware of, and Alan quickly uses this to affirm what his power is. Alan then asks the princess what she is doing in such a dangerous place. Lise reveals that she received a revelation from some days ago, and following the prophecy directed them to Clume Village. They are on their way to the village when they are attacked by monsters. Alan then suggests that they leave the place quickly because more monsters will probably show up. The ladies let him know that the wagon is destroyed, but Alan assures them that he has it covered. As usual, he uses his power, and he fixes the wagon in no time. The wagon looks new again, and the trio continues their journey to Clume Village. While they are inside the wagon, Alan finally tells the lady that he has been kicked out of the family. Lise is disappointed with the choice of Alan's father to treat his son cruelly. Alan then talks about the power that he used in saving the two, and he asks Lisa if she will be willing to let him wander free even though she now knows that Alan has a power that is useful to the kingdom. Lisi tells Alan that she is not going to report what she saw because she is choosing to pick her friend over the kingdom in this situation. Soon afterward, they arrive at Clume Village and there are no traces of the villagers. Beatrice assumes that they have been attacked by a monster, but Alan lets her know that he is not feeling the presence of monsters in the area. Beatrice then mentions that monsters didn't attack them on the way to the village, but Alan basically says, the monsters are probably afraid of something, which is causing them to avoid the village. Just then, they see the villagers gather in front of a house, and the trio walks toward them. Upon getting there, they see the village chief throwing out a lady who goes by the name of Akira Kazuragi. It turns out that Lise knows Akira, but Akira doesn't seem to know who Lise is. Lise is forced to introduce herself to Akira just to jog his memory. Once this is settled, Alan reveals his curiosity about why Akira is special. Beatrice then explains to him what a braver rank is. It is a gift that is given to just one person in a generation, and this basically makes them a hero. Basically, Akira is the current hero. The four later sit down to talk, and Akira mentions how he found herself in the village. He was walking in the woods when he saw a young girl run to him looking scared. The girl said she was almost given to a dragon, but she managed to escape. Akira decides to ask the village chief about it, but he gets thrown out of the house. He has kept the kid hidden in a cave till he is able to resolve the issue. From what Alan hears, he is able to deduce that the villagers are trying to offer the girl as a sacrifice to the dragon in exchange for protection. This is the reason no monster has come to attack them in the village so far. Once the four are done eating, Akira stands up, pointing out that he is heading to where the dragon is to defeat it. Alan asks him if he is willing to defeat the dragon even though the villagers are against it, and he says yes. The kid asks to be saved, and this is what he plans to do. Since Akira is going, Beatrice and Lisa decide that they are going to follow him too. They believe that Alan will leave, but he tells them that he is going to stay and fight with them because he cannot stand back while his friends are putting themselves in danger. When it is time for them to make a plan on how to attack the dragon, Akira suggests that he head toward the dragon while the others circle from the back so that they can get the dragon using a pincer movement. Alan then suggests that he head toward the dragon instead, but Akira refuses. Akira lets Alan know that he can clearly see that Alan is no ordinary person, but he is not ready to let Alan have all the fun to himself. He even tells Alan that he is considering sparring with him once they have defeated the dragon. With this settled, the four begin their journey to the mountaintop. Akira takes the front while the others take the side of the mountain, just as planned. On their way to the mountain, Alan points out that he suspects his former family of having something to do with the dragon. He suspects that the Westfelt family created the village so that the village could provide sacrifices for the dragon. He assumes that his former family is using this to maintain peace in the borderlands. Now on the mountaintop, Akira is already battling it out with the dragon. He uses his lightning power to strike the dragon, but nothing happens, leaving Akira in total shock. Akira is prepared to fight it all out with the dragon, but he is shocked when he finds out that the dragon has gone to kidnap the kid he kept hidden in the cave. The dragon is ready to play dirty to get Akira to surrender. The dragon then reveals that it is not his desire to eat humans as sacrifices, but he is happy with the despair that appears on their faces when this happens. He has been alive for too long, and this is a way for him to kill time, he says. Akira gets angry and goes after the dragon with everything that he has, but this does nothing to the dragon yet again. The dragon counters his attack and knocks him to the floor, causing him not to be able to move a finger, not to talk about fighting back. He gives up and considers himself dead meat already. The dragon flies into the air and plans to burn him to death, but Alan shows up just in time to attack the dragon. The dragon comes charging toward them again, and Alan tells the ladies to take care of Akira while he deals with the problem. He hits the dragon with this sword, and he gets wounded. The dragon starts to wonder how Alan and his sword can hurt him. He calls himself the Red Dragon King and wonders how a mere human is able to hurt him. Meanwhile, Alan has used his divine eyes to figure out the attack that will end the dragon. The dragon then decides to play dirty again by holding the ladies hostage. Alan is reluctant to attack, but Lisa gives him permission to do so. Alan charges toward the dragon at blinding speed, and he uses an ultimate skill to push his sword into the dragon. The blade cuts the dragon, and the dragon is defeated, but Alan's sword also becomes broken in the process of this. Akira later wakes up to find out that the dragon has been defeated. Alan is happy that he is able to help his friend in need, even though he just wants to lead a peaceful life. Later on, Alan wakes up from a long and tiring sleep to see Lise watching over him. He is startled, and he apologizes for oversleeping, but Lise understands that he is tired from his fight against the dragon, and he needs to rest. Alan asks after Akira and the rest, and Lise points to where the two are. Apparently, the two are having a sparring session together, and Akira doesn't look like someone who was injured a bit. Lise then reminds Alan about what he saw her doing earlier on. It turns out that Lisa was the one who healed Akira after the battle. Alan says he has always heard of a saintess who healed people, but never thought it was Lisa. Lisa apologizes for never telling Alan, but he doesn't take offense in this. He tells her that she is always going to be the same person to him, whether she is a saintess or a princess. Just as they conclude their talk, Akira calls on Alan to come and spar with him, and he gladly accepts this. When it is time for Lisa and her friends to leave, they invite Akira to come with them, but he humbly refuses the offer. He says he prefers going to where his mood takes him to. The little girl who he saved has also gotten attached to him, and there is the possibility that the two will stick together since she doesn't have a family. The girl is also ready to stay with Akira, so that they can continue journeying together. Akira then apologizes concerning Alan's sword, but Alan tells him that he is not to be blamed for the sword. Akira then belittles himself by saying he is not worthy of carrying the sword that is with him. He believes that he is not supposed to be called a hero. He wants Alan to take the sword, because it will serve more purpose in his hand. But Alan refuses this. Alan insists that he was able to defeat the dragon, because Akira had earlier fought the dragon. Once this is settled, Akira and the girl take their leave and the two look good together. Later on, information reaches Alan's father that the red dragon has been defeated by the hero. The information is given to him by someone whom he is talking to via a hologram channel. The unknown man is wearing a hat, and he looks composed while talking to the Duke. The Duke tells the man in the hat to lure the hero in, so that they can dispose of him. The man in the hat wants them to be careful with this because Akira was helped by Lisi. Alan's brother, Brett, is also present in the room, and he starts complaining about how he messed up. He already has plans to send a much bigger pack of clay wolves next time. His father tells him to calm down, letting him know that they need to get the materials that the dragon left behind. Brett wants them to go after the hero, but his father assures him that they still have time to go after the hero and Lisa. As long as they are within the borderlands, they will always be in their grasp, he says. He then asks the man in the hat if he has found out about the whereabouts, but he says no. The man in the hat tells the Duke that there is no need to rush him because he is going to have the elf's head soon. After saying this, the man in the hat proceeds to leave the room. The Duke then talks about how he plans to inflict damage on the kingdom and the supreme beings. On the other hand, Lisa and her friends are heading toward a town called Granholm. Apparently, there is a smith living there, and she is friends with Lisa. Lisa's friend is an elf, and Lisa is just trying to do everything in her power to set things straight for Alan. Alan wants Lisa to leave the borderlands and return to the capital, but Lisa lets him know that she has already contacted her father, and she has the permission to stay. In addition to this, she has Beatrice with her to protect her in case there is trouble. Later that night, they make a pit stop to rest for the night. Alan makes fire with his hands, and this amazes Beatrice, who is still gathering wood for fire. Lisa is tired, and she already feels sleepy. She lays her head on Alan's lap, but she quickly takes them off when Beatrice talks about it. Alan then tells her that he doesn't mind if she lays her head on him to sleep. It turns out that the two were formerly betrothed to each other. Lisa lays her head on the boy's chest and sleeps off. This makes Alan remember the first night he and Lisa met each other. The two were still very young then, and Alan was outside, looking at the moon when Lise showed up. She greets him formally and tells him that they are to get married because they are betrothed. This shocks Alan because he doesn't seem to know anything about this arrangement. Remembering all of these makes Alan wonder if this is exactly the peaceful life that he wants. The next day, the trio arrives in Granholm. Alan is surprised to find such a thriving town in the borderlands. Moments later, they get to the elf's house, which is located in the woods. Lisa is rest assured that her friend will make the perfect sword for Alan. Beatrice notices that there is something wrong because there is no clunking sound coming from the house. Apparently, standing outside the house should be enough to tell them that someone is working inside the house, but none of this is happening. Alan walks toward the door to check it out, and he finds out that the door is open, which means that they are free to enter. They enter the house and start calling the elf's name, which is Noelle. Suddenly, Lisa gasps for air when she sees something that shocks her. The other two run over to check, and they see Noelle lying unconscious on the floor. Beatrice doesn't seem scared, and she gently walks toward Noelle, picking her up and reminding Lisa that this is normal for Noelle. Apparently, she is a workaholic, and anytime she passes out like that, Lisa is responsible for healing her. After Lisa heals her, she says it's been long since she last did this, and this is the reason she was shocked. Noelle soon opens her eyes to see her friend in the room. He also notices that there is someone she doesn't know inside the room. She wastes no time in figuring out that Lisa wants her to make a sword for the guy, and Lise admits this. Noelle then says she has no interest in making a sword for the guy. Lise tries to remind Noelle that they are friends. Noelle clearly knows this, but states that she is not a friend to Alan. Noelle then points to Alan's sword, but Alan tells her that the sword is broken. He takes out the sword to show her, and this is when Noelle uses her appraisal eyes to scan the sword. She realizes that the sword is completely dead, and she immediately agrees to forge a sword for Alan. However, she decides to ask Alan a question before she proceeds to make the sword. She asks him if he is willing to wield a sword that is more powerful than a divine sword. These types of swords transcend the power and strength of divine swords that are known to be extraordinary. She has been looking for a worthy bearer all this while, and she believes that Alan fits perfectly for that. Alan agrees to this, and Noelle gets excited. She says it is time for her to get to work, and she pushes the trio outside of the house so she can work in peace. Once she closes the door, she remembers her mentor and guardian, Vanessa. She remembers how she was always forging swords, and by this, Noelle believes that she has the ability to forge a sword stronger than a divine sword. Lise and his friends then decide to find somewhere to lodge while Noelle forges the sword for Alan. As they leave the area, a girl who has been watching them reveals herself. She has the power to make herself invincible, and this is the reason they didn't see her. The girl immediately leaves to report what she has seen, and it turns out that she is working for the man in the hat. Once the man hears this, he says they need to investigate further because they don't know who Alan is, and the Duke did not give them any information concerning him. Later on, the ladies remember that the items that they got from the dragon can be converted to cash at the guild. This will be useful for Alan because he has been broke since he was chased out of the family. Lise and Beatrice will go around town to sightsee while Alan is at the guild. Once this is settled, Alan leaves the inn and heads to the guild. Lisa talks to Beatrice about her reluctance to further involve Alan in what they are dealing with. Beatrice believes that they have no choice, because what they are dealing with is quite complicated, and this is where they need Alan. Shortly afterward, Alan arrives at the guild where he meets with the receptionist. He presents the dragon scale to her, and the lady is totally stunned. She immediately takes the scale to the branch manager. Once she is gone, the man in the hat and his comrade show up to talk to Alan. The man wants to know about the dragon, but he decides to introduce himself first. His name is Horace, and the girl with him is Mylene, he says. Mylene is an Amazoness, which is quite rare in the kingdom. Horace tells Alan that he is someone who listens to adventurous stories, and he would like to know how Alan defeated the dragon. Alan then says he didn't do it by himself, forcing Horace to ask if the hero helped out, and he says yes. He wants to continue his questions, but the receptionist comes back to attend to Alan, and she tells him that he can now exchange the scales for cash. When Horace and Mylene get outside, Horace reveals that he has confirmed what he needs to confirm by talking to Alan. He concludes that Alan is not an opponent to watch, for Mylene doesn't agree with this. In the next scene, Alan and his friends make their way to Noelle's place to ask her if she is done with the sword. They enter the house to find her lying unconscious again because she has overworked herself. Lisa heals her and wakes her up as usual. Noelle then points to where the sword is and says she is done with it. Alan picks up the sword and admits that it is impressive just as Noelle promised it would be. Noelle still feels weak, and she is already suggesting that they go out to test the sword, but the sight of Lisi scares her to death, and she decides that they will try it out later. Later on, Noelle and Alan step out of the house to try out the sword. Alan says he is capable of testing it out on his own, but Noelle wants to be there when he is doing so. As they walk further into the woods, Alan asks her why she became a smith because Elves are not known to be smiths. Dwarves are the smiths of the kingdom, which is quite known to everybody. Noelle then reveals that a dwarf named Vanessa found her, and she was the one who raised her. Even though Vanessa didn't teach her a thing about forging swords, she still considers her her master. Just then, Noelle runs along, and as she does this, Horace and Mylene emerge from the nearby bush. Horace deduces that Alan is there to terminate monsters, and he tells Alan that he would like to know how things went once he is back. Alan agrees to this and leaves. Noelle is in the distance, and she sees Mylene and Horace walking away. She seems to recognize Mylene, but she is not sure, and she is not even ready to bother herself that much. On the other hand, Horace is starting to suspect Alan, and he tells Mylene to shadow him so that they can know if he is onto them or not. Meanwhile, Alan has taken down some monsters, and after Noelle uses her appraisal eyes to look at the state of the sword, she realizes that she picked the right person for the job. She then suggests that they go to a place where there are stronger monsters. The two arrive in the dark section of the woods, but there is no monster in sight. Alan immediately realizes that the monsters are hiding from something. He cuts down the bush in front of them to reveal a giant and terrifying monster that is sleeping. Noelle sees the monster and starts to shake. It seems she has a history with the monster. She then begs Alan with all seriousness to make use of the sword to terminate the monster. A flashback scene shows Vanessa making a sword, while young Noelle tries talking to her, but she just ignores the girl and focuses on the sword that she is making. All that can be heard in the house is the sound of the hammer against the sword, making a clunking sound. At one point, Noelle tries lifting a sword, but she falls down, and Vanessa doesn't even care. This continued for days, causing Noelle to be frustrated. She complains about how Vanessa only sits down to make a sword, and after complaining without any changes, she passes out. By the time she wakes up, Vanessa is done producing a beautiful sword that even catches Noelle's attention. Now in the present day, Noelle begs Alan to cut down the monster in front of them. Alan says he has no reason to cut down the monster because it is basically sleeping, away from civilization. It seems Noelle has a personal vendetta with the beast, but Alan lets her know that he is not ready to help her carry out her little revenge plan. Noelle wants to go after the monster by herself, but Alan stops her. He lets her know that the monster, which is a Fenrir, has a barrier that takes down any attack that is below a certain level. Alan tells her that only a certain level of sword can take down the monster, and an example of this is a sacred sword. Noelle says her sword can do this, but Alan knows she is lying and cautions her about doing something that she will later regret. Alan lets her know that he is not going to stop her if she insists on attacking the monsters. Alan leaves after saying this, and Noelle has a rethink about it too, and decides not to get past her boundaries. They return home to tell Beatrice and Lisa about the Fenrir that they saw inside the forest. Alan believes that the Fenrir was brought by someone to the borderland because it was cloaked in some kind of power. Alan lets them know that he has a hunch about this, but doesn't have a shred of concrete evidence just yet. He then asks the two if they have concluded their business. This leaves the two shocked, and Alan lets them know that he is aware of the fact that the two have other business in the borderland, and they are not just there to make him a sword. Lisa admits to this and tells Alan that some months ago, a general, Cyril, was terminated, and there was no evidence left behind. They have used all the powers that they can use to get something out of the scene, but nothing is working. This makes them conclude that the responsible party is a demon, and this is because demons use powers that are different from theirs. Alan wonders why a demon would want to terminate a high-ranking official and a human, for that matter. They are known to not interfere in political businesses, which makes it more complicated for him. Lisa then tells him that they are looking for clues, and this is the reason they came to the town. Alan then says he is not sure if he is right, but he thinks he has met the person who might be responsible. Meanwhile, Mylene has found out about Alan, and this leaves her surprised. She wonders what sort of power the guy is using and realizes that Alan is not just a trivial opponent like her master assumed. When she got back to Horace, he asked her about what she had learned, but Mylene decided to withhold information by telling Horace that she found nothing. Horace then says it might be good for them to leave because there is no fun in the town. However, Horace wants Mylene to terminate Lisa and Noelle before they do. This order leaves her in total shock, and Horace notices this. He wastes no time in reminding her that he is her master. Apparently, Horace has a spell on Mylene that gets her to do whatever she wants. Later on, Noelle is seen trying to make a sword that will be strong enough to land a blow on the Fenrir. Alan has explained everything that will make her build the sword in the right direction. She soon gets tired and passes out. A flashback scene shows young Noelle trapped in the house while Vanessa fights the Fenrir outside. It turns out that the Fenrir is under Horace's control, and they want to terminate her because she is a skilled smith. They can't leave her to continue making powerful swords. Vanessa tries her best against the demon, but ends up getting terminated while Noelle watches on. After terminating Vanessa, the Fenrir goes after Noelle, but the hero shows up right on time to stop the beast. He hits the beast with a lightning strike, but the beast still manages to stand up. He goes after the beast again and lands a shot that seems fatal, forcing Horace and the Fenrir to withdraw to avoid further engagement. After everything is settled, Noelle stands up and sits beside her mentor's corpse, crying about the fact that all of her hard work has gone to waste. Now, in the present day, Noelle finishes up with the modification of the sword and starts heading to the woods. She finds the Fenrir, and she's about to attack it when the Fenrir wakes up, pushing her away. She sustains a fatal hit, but still manages to stand up even though she is weak. Horace then shows up, applauding the fact that Noelle is able to stand up even after getting hit by the Fenrir. Noelle talks about Vanessa, and this is when Horace realizes that Noelle is the young girl who was with Vanessa the day she died. She considers it poetic that Noelle and her master are both going to die at the hands of the Fenrir. Noelle gets angry and goes after the beast one more time, but the beast jumps over her, delivering a backshot to keep her on the ground. Noelle tries crawling toward her sword with the hope that she can take down the beast if she can just land a single slash on it. Horace then offers Noelle the chance to work for him. He lets her know that the gift that she possesses is very rare, and this is the reason he needs her. He lets know that Mylene also has a rare gift, and this is the reason she is working for him. It turns out that the girl no longer has a family she can call her own, and this is because Horus and his people wiped them out. Noelle blatantly refuses the offer, telling Horus that she would rather die than become his slave. Horus is disappointed to hear this, as he is expecting Noelle to make the smart choice of joining him. He calls Noelle a shame and orders the Fenrir to eliminate her. Just then, Alan shows up and stops this. Horus doesn't seem surprised to see Alan. He makes fun of him and lets him know that he is not going to have the time to return home to save the princess. Apparently, the princess is in danger because Mylene is after her. However, Beatrice and Lisa have laid a trap for the invincible lady, and they already have her trapped. Alan laughs when he hears Horus talk about this. He tells Horus that he has already put up a barrier that nullifies invincibility before leaving the house. Alan says he is used to schemes like this in his past life, and there is no way he is falling for something like that again. Horus is shocked to hear Alan talk about a past life, and this leaves her confused. Meanwhile, Beatrice and Mylene are battling it out. Beatrice is about to end her with a powerful slash, but the princess stops her. Beatrice gets distracted by this, and Mylene gets the drop on her. Mylene goes after the princess, but finds it hard to go through with terminating her. Lisa looks into her eyes, talking about how Mylene is really not a bad person. Mylene is also distracted by this, and Beatrice already recovers. Beatrice hits Mylene in the back and knocks her out. Back in the woods, Alan tells Horus that his assassination plan has failed, but he doesn't want to believe this. Alan is not ready to argue with him and tells him that he is free to assume that he is bluffing. Horus then changes the topic, boasting that there is nothing Alan can do to them because he doesn't have a sacred sword that he can use on the beast. Horus orders the beast to go after Alan, and Noelle already fears for the guy's life. The beast charges toward Alan, but Alan takes him down with just a slash from his sword, leaving Horus in total shock. He wastes no time in retreating because he realizes that he is in danger if he stays any longer. Alan then carries Noelle on his back because she fell asleep after he healed her. They get home and they are welcomed by Lise. She is relieved to find out that Noelle is safe and sound. Just then, Noelle wakes up and realizes that Alan is carrying her. She throws a tantrum, telling the guy to drop her because he never took permission from her. Later on, the four gather in front of Mylene. She is tied to a chair, and Alan reveals that he has removed the slave spell on her, which should now allow her to talk freely. Mylene decides to keep mute, and Beatrice suggests that they take her to the capital where she is going to face trial. Lisi doesn't want this to happen because she believes that Mylene is not a bad person. Beatrice tries to remind Lisi that Mylene tried to terminate her. Lise then says Mylene didn't come after her by her own will. She was under Horus's influence, and she assumes that Mylene will have people that she is going to return to. Just then, Mylene speaks out, telling them that she has nowhere to return to because everything she knows has been burned down. This reminds Noelle of the first day that Vanessa found her. Vanessa carried her like her own child, telling her that they were headed home. Noelle then cuts Mylene loose. She suggests that she come with her to their home. Noelle assures the others that she is going to take care of the girl. Beatrice says the girl might come after Lisa again, but Noelle lets her know that she is not going to let that happen. Mylene gets emotional from this and starts to sob. Alan is relieved to find out that the problem has been solved, and he heaves a sigh of relief. Later on, Alan makes his way into the woods and activates his high-speed technique. Horus is on the other end of the forest, and he is resting. He believes that he has made it far away enough for Alan to get to him. He starts to wonder what sort of power the guy is wielding. He is in the middle of this thought when he senses something coming at him at a blinding speed. It turns out that Horus has another enemy who is not Alan. A black figure appears behind Horus and does something bad to him. By the time Alan gets there, Horus is no longer Horus again. Moments later, the black figure is seen in the Westfelt residence, talking to Alan's father and Brett. It turns out that the black figure is a demon, and he is working with the Westfelt family. He assures Alan's father that he has taken care of Horus before he can leak any information. He is going to take care of Noelle and Lisa after this. Alan's father then says he is going to handle the hero and the archbishop on his own part. Brett then tells his father to leave the archbishop to him because he is confident that he is going to eliminate him without fail. The episode opens with a flashback scene of Lise and her uncle traveling together in a carriage. They are suddenly attacked by a group of monsters. Lisa's uncle, Alfred, wastes no time in jumping out of the carriage to fight off the monsters and also protect his niece. One of the monsters tries to push its way into the carriage, but Alfred pierces the monster with his sword. In return, the monster pushes its claws into Alfred, thus impaling him. Holding onto the monster, Alfred and the monster fall into the stream down below, with no indication that he can survive the fall. In the present day, Alan, Beatrice, and Lise show up at a village that looks rather peaceful. It seems the village is preparing for what seems to be a festival. One of the villagers tells the trio that this is a festival where they call on spirits. Beatrice is about to get defensive when the villager tells them that it is all for fun. They basically dress up like ghosts and dance. Lise then asks the guy if he knows anyone who wears silver armor, because the person who fits the description seems to be in the village. The villagers don't seem to know anyone like this, and the trio just take what they heard as a rumor. A flashback scene shows the trio meeting with Noelle to talk to her about this. There has been no lead on the dead general, but she is the one who told them about a man who wears silver armor that is always appearing in the village. The man is said to be of royal blood and also holds a grudge against the royals. It turns out that Beatrice is actually scared of ghosts and the talk of going to investigate the village. Even though Beatrice is scared, she has no choice but to just follow the others to the village, and this is how she finds herself in the village. Now, in the present day, Alan suggests that they check out the village's cemetery, since Noelle mentioned something concerning ghosts. As they walk through the graveyard, they see a strange-looking man. Since they are looking for answers, the man decides to take them to the village head's house, letting them know that he is the most knowledgeable. When the man is asked what he is doing in the cemetery, he tells the team that he just happened to be walking around. The team gets to talk to the village head, who tells them that there has been no sighting of a man wearing silver armor. He then urges the team to stay the night and have fun with them since they will be having a festival the following day. Lise and Beatrice are still thinking about this offer when Alan lets the man know that they are going to honor the offer. That night, Lise is sleeping when she remembers a memory with her uncle. It appears that the two are very close, because Lisa even addresses her as her father. Lisa stands up from her bed and walks toward the window to see her uncle standing outside. Her uncle starts walking deep into the forest, and Lisa runs after the man. She continues following him until she arrives at the cemetery, and corpses emerge from the ground. Lisa gets scared and starts to scream. Alan wakes her up, and it turns out that everything happening was nothing but a dream. She hugs Alan, realizing that she is safe and not in danger. The next day, the entire village is dressed as ghosts, and they are busy having fun. Beatrice talks about the weirdness of the festival, saying it is basically a taboo in the kingdom. Alan then suggests that she put a stop to it, but Beatrice says she doesn't need to if it is not causing trouble for anyone. The trio just stands there looking at how goofy the villagers are. Alan thinks about how something is off, but he doesn't sense anything that is unnatural. Just then, the strange guy from yesterday shows up and urges the trio to stand up and dance with the crowd since they are present at the festival. Beatrice and Alan are up for this, but Lisa says she is just going to stay back for now. Before Alan leaves where he is, he uses his power to check out the crowd. He and Beatrice then excitedly run toward the crowd. Moments after the two leaves, Lisa senses something strange in the area, and this is when she hears her uncle calling out to her. She looks back to see her uncle walking away in the distance and decides to chase after him. She continues chasing him until she finds herself in the woods. She is out of breath and decides to stop for a while and catch her breath. This is when Alfred appears out of nowhere, reminding Lise that it is bad for her to wander into dangerous places alone. There appears to be a strange aura around Alfred, and something looks different inside of him. Lisa is very happy to see Alfred, and she starts telling him how they searched hard for him. They didn't find his corpse, and this is what made Lisa believe that her uncle was still alive somewhere. She then asks Alfred what he has been up to, and where he has been. Alfred replies that he has been in hiding, resenting the royal family. This is the reason he hid himself away, so that he could take revenge on the royal family. He tells Lisa that the king, who is her father, is trying to terminate all those who have incredible talents. The ones who are known as the naturally gifted are slowly being taken away by the king, he says. These are the likes of the hero, Noelle, Archbishop, and even Lisa herself. Alfred says all of these powers are incredible, and this is the reason the king wants to take them, because he believes that they are working for the divine being. He believes that these gifted people are going to wreak havoc on the kingdom, Alfred says. Alfred then says he has plans to defeat the king, and this is the reason he wants Lisa to come with him. Lisa calms down after hearing all of these, and says even though her uncle is right, she believes that there are other ways to go about it. She reminds Alfred that he was once the one who told her that believing in people is something. Just then, Alfred agrees to say this, and he starts to levitate. He speaks like a true villain, letting Lisa know that her corpse will not go to waste. He arms him and comes charging at Lisa. Luckily for her, Alan shows up just in time to block the attack. Alfred tells Alan not to interfere in the matter, and Alan lets him know that he is actually the one interfering with his peace and quiet. Lisa is surprised to see Alan, and he tells her that he has been watching everything unfold. Alfred laughs at Alan because he remembers him as Lisa's former failure, who was considered to be a failure by everyone. Alan lets the guy know that he is not there for chit-chat. He wants to bring back the real Alfred. Using his power, Alan breaks the compulsion that is holding Alfred. Alfred falls to the ground, and Lisa starts to wonder what Alan has done to her uncle. Alfred manages to speak out, and he tells Lisa that he is already dead. It turns out that Alan broke the spell that was used on Alfred. Alfred thanks Alan for the help, and he apologizes to his niece for holding his sword against her. He then lets her know that the things he said to her, and his attempt to terminate her, is not of his own will. He reveals that the demons are behind everything that has been happening. However, there is one thing that is true in everything that he said, and this is his resentment toward the royal bloodline. Lisa is surprised to hear this, and she asks Alfred why he hates the royal bloodline. Alfred says because he is the younger brother of the king, there are so many people who want to associate themselves with him. As second to the throne, a lot has tried to drive a wedge between him and his brother. This is the reason Alfred hated everything that came with royalty and decided to abandon his position. He made the decision to start over from scratch. He continued working hard until he became the vice captain of the premier squadron. He then confesses that Lisa is the only thing in his life that makes him happy and at peace. Since he doesn't have much time left, he has two things to ask Alan. He begs Alan to help protect Lisa because she might be reckless, but that doesn't take away the fact that she is a good girl. Alan then assures Alfred that he has always had the intention of doing this, even if Alfred doesn't ask. Alfred thanks him for the reassurance, but says there is one more thing. He wants Alan to spar with him. Lisa is surprised to hear this, but Alan knows why Alfred wants to fight him. He wants to use the opportunity to know if the person he is handing over his niece to is actually capable of protecting her. Alfred is impressed with the fact that Alan actually knows his plan. Without further ado, the two charge toward each other, and Alfred tells him to put his all into it, because he is not going to get another opportunity like this again. As the two exchange blows, Lisa starts to remember the fun times she had with Alfred, and starts to cry. By the time the fight is over, Alfred is defeated, and he is slowly losing his grasp on the world of the living. Lisa sits beside him and starts to cry, but Alfred tells her not to. He assures Lisa that he is now at peace and can peacefully go away. He tells Lisa that she is truly like a daughter to him. He reveals how joyful he always was whenever Lisa calls him father. Lisa holds Alfred's hand, telling him how blessed she is, and also decides to call him father one more time. As Alfred slowly slips away, he tells Lisa to try her best to find happiness. Lisa cries hard over her uncle's dead body, but there is nothing that can be done again. Later on, the village head approaches Alan, asking him when he knows that something is not right about the village. Alan tells him that he has known from the start that the village is full of dead people, and the village head is the one controlling them. The man is surprised by this, and asks Alan why he didn't say anything. Alan says it is none of his business, because everything seems peaceful, and there is no indication that someone is getting hurt. The man then asks Alan if he doesn't mind that he is a demon, and Alan says yes. He is not the type who assumes all demons are bad. Instead of the man just taking the win and leaving, he decides to play smart. He brings out corpses from the ground, so that they can hurt Alan. Alan realizes that he has made a mistake in considering the man to be a good person. With just one slash from his sword, he takes down the dead guys and the demon with them. He then picks up the little stone left behind by the demon. Meanwhile, Brett and his father have been informed that the demons have failed again. Brett's father doesn't seem to be moved by this because their other plan actually worked. Brett has been able to take down the Archbishop, he says. In the next scene, Alan, Beatrice, and Lisa are seen leaving the village in a carriage. Alan checks the magical stone with him, using his power, and this is when he realizes that the only part of Alfred's body that truly belongs to him is his head. There is still the speculation about the dead general, Cyril, missing a head. Just then, Lisa receives the news that the perceived dead general Cyril has returned.